Becoming is better than being. And that is precisely why we consider ourselves to always be a work in progress.
Yes.
It means that you are never complete and you always have the opportunities to become someone and something better.
It allows you the ability to be comfortable with making mistakes and accepting yourself for who you are.
Indeed, we are a work in progress. Hi, I'm AX.
I'm GK.
And I am Chris M.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys.
So, this week we're going to talk about something that happened in the beginning of October.
Sure,
Yes,
hit
okay?
us.
In the beginning of October, there was some leaking of confidential papers that were allocated to the press, and then it was disseminated to the whole world. That was the Pandora Papers.
Yes.
But we're not going to talk about the Pandora Papers in isolation. What we're going to do is ask an interesting question, and a question around the theme of whistleblowing in its essence, okay?
Yeah.
So before I ask the question, let me give you guys a bit of a history of whistleblowing, okay? So there's a term that was called qui tam. It's a short for another very long term, which I will not share with the rest of you for the aim of not making myself sound stupid. But qui tam basically is about it's about releasing information regarding to something that can both harm you and harm the owner of a company or something like that.
Yes.
That's the way I'll do it. So it started in 7th century England. That was the first case it ever started, and it dates back to, it's called 695, the time. AD, I think.
Okay.
In the declaration of King Whitred of Kent, and it explained that if a free man works during the Sabbath, he shall forfeit his profits, and the man who informs against him shall have half the fine and the profits of the labor. So it was regarding to forced labor.
Okay.
And that was the first ever case
Of
that was
whistleblowing.
of whistleblowing, an act that sort of condemned it.
Okay.
That was the first ever. This is from Whistleblowers International. This is the big guys, okay? So since then, a number of hundreds and hundreds of cases have been released to the air. It's talking about different moments in our history where people have come out from companies explaining about lies or falsehoods that they feel the public needs to hear. One of the most famous ones, you'd be surprised, is someone called Benjamin Franklin. Now, Benjamin Franklin was known for whistleblowing when he exposed confidential letters that showed that the royal appointed governor of the region of Massachusetts had intentionally misled Parliament.
So this was during the colonial times,
This is during the colonial times of America, and the aim, and it was to promote a military build-up of the colonies. So he went and he talked about that, and things happened. So around all that, summing short all the history we've had of whistleblowing, the question I have for you guys is, in the last decade, with the rise of the internet, and not just the rise of the internet, but the extreme adoption of the internet, do you feel that there has been an increase in the cases of whistleblowing, and why do you feel that's the case?
All right, so it seems like ladies first.
Of course.
I would like to answer my question, rather the question that you posed, by looking at our most current moment, our most recent moment, which is the coronavirus pandemic. I was reading a couple of reports that suggested that whistleblowing has actually increased during the pandemic, and it's because people are working from home. And when you work from home, there's like this element of separation between you and your boss, so you feel a bit more emboldened to speak out against things that you don't agree with. Then there's also the fact that like people in medicine and the healthcare community, they're also speaking up about what they need to be safe. You saw in the very beginning of the pandemic in the US, a lot of doctors and nurses were speaking out and being like, we don't have the right PPEs, we don't have enough to keep us safe, people are dying, like y'all need to come forward. I mean, I think even the coronavirus was admitted to the rest of the world by a whistleblower from China. Like that's how we got to know about the virus, right? So I think the coronavirus is a big factor in why whistleblowing has increased of late.
Okay, Christian, what do you have to say to that?
I'll have to agree with my colleague, Ian, and say also maybe the laws. You've said in the last 10 years, something that has happened in the last 10 years in Kenya is we had a new constitution, which gave people a lot of freedoms and liberties. People feel more free to talk about things, more open to talk about things. Remember the KEMSA thing? People came out and talked about it. I also think that, like you said, the advent of the internet and the penetration of the internet in this whole the whole world rather, it has given people a platform to share their views and their opinions, and then now your audience is diverse. You don't have to, for example, let me use our country. If I wanted to whistleblow, for example, I'd have to.
Is that the term?
Yeah, it's
I want to whistleblow.
Yeah, that's the term.
Okay.
I
Because I'm not a referee, I get where you're going. If I was about to do that back in the day, I would have to go to a big media house, hope that they would carry that story. And if it went contrary to their beliefs or their bottom line, they would not carry it. But now I don't really care. I have the internet, I have WhatsApp, I have Twitter, all those things. I just go there, post it.
And you can be anonymous if you want to, although you're never really anonymous.
But the internet and favorable laws, I would think.
Actually, to add on to the point about favorable legislation, around the world in particular, like the US, EU, like Australia, those kind of big jurisdictions, you have a rise in protections for whistleblowers, basically saying that if you come forward, they cannot fire you, they cannot like retaliate against you in any way, they give you like a right to privacy as a whistleblower, and they make sure that you get some money from whistleblowing. I think one of the rewards in the UK was like £5 million or something. It's ridiculous, which I think raises another question that I would like to pose to the panel. How can you tell the difference between a person that's whistleblowing in good faith and a person that's just doing it for the money?
Can you tell the difference? I don't. Oh, Christian, why don't you go first?
No. For me, it's an interview that Tyrese Gibson gave concerning, I think, whistleblowing.
Actor.
Yeah, whistleblowing is a musician. But he does both. The difference between whistleblowing and snitching. This is the snitching part. I don't know about now the
Snitching.
And he said, because he lives that life, if you have a duty or obligation to a group of people, like you've taken an oath to protect, to serve, and all that, if you give information that will lead to someone else being caught or something like that, you are whistleblowing. But if you've ascribed to a certain type of life, and then you go and give that information, that is snitching. For example, if a police officer was to give information about fellow police officers who are dirty, that is whistleblowing, not snitching. But if you live the street life, and you know what I mean by saying street life, if you're to tell against your brothers, then now that is snitching. Now, if you're to translate that into the ethical whistleblowing for the ethical reasons, for the financial,
for the money,
I think maybe I'll use the same metrics.
Thought process.
That's what I've done.
Yeah, I think it depends on what. Because I don't know, whistleblowing, especially when it's at a high level, the risk is more than the reward in my perspective. Because many times, even though you're given all these protections, your life is on the line. For example, I think there are two cases that you can talk about: Julian Assange, who had to run away for his life, and
Edward Snowden,
who is living in Russia, in fear of his life. And basically, the Americans have said they don't accept. They're going to arrest him if they get the chance. They're going to arrest him. And Assange, WikiLeaks has been a game changer in whistleblowing, because he created the website in 2006 that sort of allowed you to drop big, high, intense leakages onto the web and have anonymity. So I think if you do it anonymously, if you don't want your name to get on top, if you don't want all these things to happen, then maybe you're doing it for the better good. But for me, I have a question to counter your question.
Okay.
I need a question also.
Okay.
Would you prefer truth above order?
Oh.
So this is why I asked the question. For example, Edward Snowden released a lot of highly classified, big security documents to the public. These are documents that, if not taken properly, and if they continue to be leaked, could have led to the deaths of intelligence officers, could have led to real big crises for governments, because people would claim anarchy and fight against the establishment. So the question I have is there stuff that we actually should never know about?
The answer is yes.
I disagree.
You disagree?
I disagree.
I believe not everything is for you. Some things, depending on the level of clearance, and I know that as a term in itself, it means as a society we've classified some people. You need to know, you don't need to know. But I believe some things, there's a saying that goes this way. Sometimes it's better to be happy than to be right. If you're married, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. So even as a country sometimes, or even as a world sometimes, you don't need to know everything. Sometimes government will do some things that may seem a bit shady, but it's for the greater good. You don't need to know about all those things.
Nobody wants to see the making of sausages.
Nobody.
I mean, I would disagree. I would say that we need to see how sausages are made to make sure they're not putting poison in the stuffing, right? Because had Edward Snowden not come out and released the reality that the US government was spying on its own citizens, that the US government was involving big social media companies and asking them to participate in this mass surveillance without a warrant, by the way, and considering the fact the US is a democratic society that values individual liberties and freedoms, like this was a matter of public interest. And yes, it would have disrupted supported the order, but the truth in this instance mattered more than whatever order we were getting.
No, but I understood your question to be generally, right?
Yeah.
No, not
I was just using that as an example. Like, yeah.
So generally you believe truth is better than order.
We should know everything.
Yeah, we should, yes.
Do you think the people are able to cope with everything? For example, you know, some of the biggest secrets, what happens if there was a big whistleblowing event for Area 51, for those of you who know it and are scared about that we are not alone. What happens then? What happens to the world? What happens to our...
pandemonium.
Our perspective of what the world and what life is.
Do you guys know how new islands are made sometimes?
No.
Using trash.
No. Not like trash islands, but like sometimes when a volcano erupts, in particular like Hawaii, right? That is a destructive event. It is disrupting order, right? But then what tends to happen is that when the hot lava meets the cool ocean, it tends to form like really fertile, rich land that emerges from that. So out of destruction, something beautiful can rise up.
So you say we'd be destroyed, but something greater
would suffer, but something greater would rise up.
You also know what happens when volcanoes erupt. A lot of people die.
A lot of
property is destroyed. So sometimes it's the exchange. Do I need to know that government did such and such if it really doesn't concern me that much? I only care that we have UNGA. If the government had to use GMOs, for example, maybe that's a wrong example. But sometimes I don't really need to know everything. I just need to know that it happened. And if you devolve this back to family, sometimes parents will do things. If they told you what they did, you'd be shocked or petrified. But you don't know that, and as a kid, you're very happy because the results are there for you to see, and all that you need are the results, not the process.
You know, there are two things I want to say to that. You know, sometimes truth hampers your ability to progress. You get me?
No.
Truth actually
Not at all. Not at all.
And sometimes truth can be used as a vehicle for political gain.
Yeah.
Let me use this example.
So can order as well.
WikiLeaks, for example, became a political Swiss knife in 2016.
With the US presidential election.
The US presidential elections, at the point in which the emails were leaked. Thank you so much for highlighting what I want to say.
It's okay. It was a dumb thing
The emails that were leaked seemed to sway the public from supporting Hillary Clinton to supporting Donald Trump. So it was truth what happened, but what did it do? It created pandemonium, i.e. the Trump presidential reign.
The 4 years.
The 4 years. So would you have preferred that those emails were never leaked? Or if they were leaked at a better time? You see? Would you have preferred that, AX?
Oh, thank you for being so dramatic about it. Okay. That is a really complex question, right? Because of my political leanings, I would have not preferred for the man-child that is Donald Trump, who is more orange than an actual orange, for him to have attended to the White House. I would have preferred for that not to happen, right? But the truth was going to come out anyway.
Yeah, but
and the truth itself was not bad. It's what you said. It's the fact that the truth was politicized.
Yeah,
it's the fact that people took the truth and were like, oh, she was doing really illegal government stuff with her private personal computer. You can't trust her. She's crooked Hillary, etc., etc., etc. But that's not the truth. That's a narrative, and truth is not the same as narrative, right, GK?
The point is this: you want the truth.
Yeah.
You
can't handle the truth.
And that is exactly where we're going to stop the conversation. We'll be back after the break where we'll look at something else that is just as interesting. Welcome back to Work in Progress. Now it is time for our Breaking Five special.
Yes.
A news item had happened in the beginning of October. I think the October 4th.
Yeah,
October 4th. That is, we have to talk about it because of its far-reaching implications. And that is Facebook.
Yeah.
Closed down.
So are you guys aware of what happened? Like, I know that at least all of us have at least a WhatsApp account.
Yes.
We all have like a Facebook or Instagram or something. So we all felt the effects of not being on Facebook for like 6 hours, right? But you actually know what happened from a technical perspective.
Enlighten us.
Okay, so on the 4th of October, Facebook kind of lost its ability to communicate with its servers, right? Now, essentially, they were kicked out of the internet. Usually, when this happens, Facebook just sends a little message to another server to be like, hey, could we just like run our traffic through your server? I promise it'll be quick. And usually that request is accepted. However, Facebook runs everything through Facebook. Like its servers are Facebook, its wires are Facebook, like everything is Facebook, Facebook.
Yeah.
So when its servers were booted off the internet, Facebook also lost its ability to send up a follow-up message. They also lost the ability to log into
the system.
So they also lost the ability to use the smart card, the door lock
The
thing.
Facebook workplace
Yes,
system.
yes. They also lost the ability to communicate with the head security guy to tell him to come in so that they can reboot the servers manually. Like it's one of those things of like when it rains, it pours. And on this 4th of October, it really poured for Facebook. Took them 6 hours to get their systems back online. And I have a personal conspiracy theory about this. So on the subject of whistleblowers and the whole Facebook outage, on that same Monday, Facebook's whistleblower was announced on 60 Minutes on CNN. Her name is Frances something. Haugen or something? My personal conspiracy theory is that Facebook, like this wasn't an accident. Facebook accidentally caused all its servers to crash and caused the reduction of network flow so that people wouldn't be able to talk about the revelations, right? So that people wouldn't be able to criticize Facebook on Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, etc.
So you have given us a number of layers that we need to decompose here. So before we go to the conspiracy, which for the first time in my life I'm saying is not as crazy as
Mark Zuckerberg. It's entirely possible.
It's plausible. What was interesting for me was the stories that you'd hear behind the scenes that they had to communicate on email, on Gmail, between people inside the office and inside, because they were locked out of their own headquarters.
It was bad.
It was that funny. There were people who had to make messages on Twitter about Facebook. And then what was so hilarious is that 3.5 billion people had no access to communication. People are saying that Africans themselves lost about $13 million. Mark Zuckerberg lost $7 billion. Facebook lost $50 billion. And more than 13 million of the advertising dollars that Facebook earns was lost each hour. So basically, Facebook lost $13 million. Every hour.
It was bad. It was so bad.
Which begs the question to me. The first question before we go into your theory is that are we over-reliant on this thing called Facebook? You know, Facebook owns Instagram.
Yes.
And it owns WhatsApp.
Yes.
For Africans, WhatsApp has become the messaging platform of choice. And not just for Africans, it's the developing world. For the rest of the world, the Messenger has become the communication app of choice, which is also under Facebook. So have we as a society become too over-reliant on one company to control our whole form of communication?
That's my problem with this whole Facebook thing. Remember we used to talk about dictators and all that?
Yeah.
Wait. We're on the same page for this one.
For the first time. Yeah. For the first time in a long time.
This is rare.
This is a collectible. This episode you can...
Yeah, collect it. Keep it safe. It's rare.
So as the world, this Mark Zuckerberg guy, he has a stranglehold on social media. Yeah. He owns the largest one, which is Facebook. Yeah. Yeah, they're not the most popular, but the largest one. Yeah. Instagram is also up there.
Yeah. WhatsApp.
And now WhatsApp. Luckily, I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on Facebook, so that did not affect me at all.
But you're on WhatsApp.
Could care less. I'm on WhatsApp. Yeah. And that outage really did things to me, because that's where I communicate. Yeah. Number two, being out for 6 hours and losing 7 billion.
Personally.
It's not that bad.
What do you mean it's not that bad?
It's not that bad, because I'll put this into context. During the Euros, there's a gentleman by the name of...
This is a football tournament, for those of you who don't know.
It happened around June, July, or July thereabouts. Cristiano Ronaldo moved Coca-Cola, a beverage, a soft drink beverage, from the frame of the camera. That might took about like what, a minute, maybe a few seconds. That company lost $4 billion. So in the grand scheme of things, I think Facebook were very lucky to only lose 7 billion.
They didn't lose 7 billion. They lost 50 billion.
I mean, for 6 hours, right?
For 6 hours.
If you do the divide by, it's still not that bad. But I think I think it's time Africa came up with its own social media.
Yeah, we do China.
Isn't there a country in Africa that's trying to come up with its own Facebook and stuff?
I'm sure there are
I think it might be Ethiopia or something.
We are 1.2 billion people. I think we are able to sustain a platform like that. Let's not be too reliant on the Western people. They have their own issues. Like AX is saying, a conspiracy theory. If that's true, I don't know. If that's true, then because they want to mute people and not give that story traction on their platforms. For 6 hours, you could not communicate. Most of us get our news from
Facebook,
those sites,
WhatsApp even.
So for 6 hours, you're in the dark. So maybe maybe that's a venture for you, GK.
Yeah, I will be calling it GK Media. Is that a good name?
Yeah, it's okay.
So, one of the things that I found very interesting, because of your revelations, is because Facebook has already been known for doing
dictator stuff,
dirty things, to say the least, over their time in our world. And one of the things that I found really crazy while doing research for this discussion was its issue with Myanmar. Now, they have been found guilty
by the UN, no less.
By the UN,
no less,
of playing a significant role in the Rohingya Muslim genocide. So if you know Myanmar is a population that's mostly Buddhist Asian, but they have a group of people who are known as the last non-state people in the world, called the Rohingya Muslims. They've never been accepted by Myanmar. So what has happened is it's coming out that the military exploited Facebook and its wide reach in Myanmar with more than 18 million users to target them and change their mindsets regarding the genocide that was happening.
So
brainwashing them to solve their purpose.
Yeah, and let me just take a minute here to talk about just how complicit Facebook is, right? If you ever have the chance, go look at Sophie Zhang's revelations. You can find them on BuzzFeed News, but she goes into this in greater detail. But in essence, Facebook is supposed to have content moderators, people who are supposed to sit there and say, well, this is harmful to society, people should not be able to see this. Except Facebook really didn't have that for Myanmar. And when they did, the content moderators were only capable of moderating posts that were in English and not in the local language. And more than that, the content moderation rules were in English and were not in the local language. So Facebook just didn't care. And then afterwards, when the Gambia was trying to hold Myanmar responsible for the genocide, they went to Facebook like, hey, we know you have all these accounts. Could we please have the information because we need to make sure this never happens again? Facebook said nope. Facebook did not want to give up those accounts. Facebook just said, we don't have them, you need to be more specific. They're just putting up roadblock after roadblock after roadblock in the effort to seek justice. Bearing in mind Twitter, however, Twitter said, Twitter was willing to give up these accounts, and Facebook wasn't. That just tells you what Facebook is all about.
And Facebook has been politicized of late because the question is, which immediately started saying those things, questions came into my head of, like, what is the right... Like, what would they stop? Like, if you have content moderators, what's dangerous, what's not dangerous?
It's dangerous because you also now fall under the... I don't know.
But isn't your privacy...
That's all the privacy law things, because now if you're giving out my information, then my privacy is not put into consideration. But then again, the other side is maybe more government control would help solve this. I remember there's a case of a terrorist attack or something like that. And he was using an iPhone.
2015.
Something like that. And Apple refused to give the FBI access. So privacy laws. But then we're asked, privacy laws, that's very good. Public.
What's the trade-off?
What's the
trade-off? What's the balance?
I think
that's the problem that the world is facing right now. We don't know the balance because politicians are now being removed from all these social media sites for saying things that are considered to be slightly wrong, and they're asking the question. No, sometimes some things they say are completely wrong. But other things that they say are not necessarily harmful.
They are wrong according to the Western metrics.
According to Western metrics, and so then therein lies the problems. Should they now bring in people who've not, I don't even know, people who've not been trained African, who are westernized, to come and look at these issues from a different perspective. Then you said you have content moderators. If Facebook hires 10,000 content moderators around the world, which is a low estimate.
It's so low, that's not enough.
Estimate. How many people post every day?
Millions.
I think Facebook has almost 2 billion active users, WhatsApp has 700 million active users, and Instagram has about 1 billion.
So how much information would still slip through the cracks?
Enough.
A lot.
So do you want them to still to hire per capita 1 for every 10 people? We do it like police. Huh?
I mean, that's something you can explore.
Yeah, but I also think we might be out of time to explore these issues, even though as fun as it may be.
So as we conclude the show, we'll end with a number of memes that you'll see to roll us off into the credits.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for watching Work in Progress. We'll be here with you next time.
Bye.